but it's like really dark.
with the
sort of the main agenda items that we were talking about. And so I'll defer my report until I give to the other officers to see if they have anything to say. And so that means, Greg, you're up, I guess, as the vice president.
All right, well, I just got back from vacation, so you can hold off on myself for the topic.
Yeah.
So
If you unless you have anything else.
I don't have anything else. So Peter,
Treasurer's report.
treasurer's report.
And before Peter tells on me, I have yet to pay my dues, and I will do that before the end of the night.
$10 a year. So we have
All benefits.
$1,917.36. Account 670.29 for each garden. We have 977 for the general fund, 270 petty cash. And I just got 45. And 1 3,000.
Awesome.
Thank you. Any questions about the treasurer's report? Moving on. Junior report. Okay. Michael Murphy. We'll talk about like RPP and that stuff later, but like unless you want to talk about it now. No? Okay. So we'll hit it during the agenda item. Do you have anything else to report?
No.
Okay. Megan, communications.
Not a lot from me. We did a article for the February issue of the Peninsula Post, so that is out now, I think. Continuing to work on the grant for tree planting. I'm still hopeful to get that in this month, but if we miss it, then it'll be the spring cycle. Need to figure out what our capabilities are actually for getting the work done within the time frame. So
Sure.
that's what we're thinking of. And that's it. We are live on YouTube, albeit it's very dark in here. So.
Understood. Any questions about communications? No?
Megan, did you need any support with the South Baltimore Community Partnership grant application?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Okay.
Thank you. Leading and greeting.
Not much to report, but in the last 65 seconds, I had paid my dues, so it's very easy to use PayPal.
Did you pay my dues?
Fantastic. Great. It's good to hear. Do you have anything planned for the springtime that you could illuminate us on?
We're not sure yet about what we want to do, but we're waiting for the weather to improve a little, to raise our spirits.
Gotcha. All right. So at some point, I guess we'll have to plan the spring cleanup event, which was highly successful last year. I think the board discussed, and I don't know if you were there, making sure that we don't let that fall on the mayor's cleanup weekend, that we do it at a separate time. So who am I missing that's on the board that's here? Jenny Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about 1900 Light Street? Yes.
Let's talk about 1900 Light Street.
Okay.
So do you want me to do the intro? Or
Sure.
You got the whole thing.
You do the intro.
Okay, so for people who don't know, 1900 Light Street is a commercial property that's vacant right now. It used to be, I think, a slaughterhouse at one point. And it is planning to be redeveloped as sort of a mixed-use space with a brewery and a coffee shop and maybe like a Pilates kind of studio, I believe. Yes. And we decided that we wanted to poll the neighborhood and look and take their opinion about what's going on, and I'll let you take it from there.
Okay. So we created a Google form and Megan disseminated it on our neighborhood association Facebook page, just kind of seeking feedback, specifically regarding whether the community members had any objections to the SBNA submitting a letter of support for the developer to obtain a market license for the property.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
So a market license is a liquor license that would allow them to serve alcohol throughout the premises, sort of like cross street market is. It's a unique thing and it requires state legislation. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's good. I appreciate that. So we have been in talks with the developer to say, okay, we might be able to submit a letter of support for this, pending an agreement on a memorandum of understanding, as well as a community benefits agreement, which is a legally enforceable document. So we included language that could be included in the piece of legislation, kind of just to protect our interests. So we polled our neighbors just regarding whether they had any objection to the intended action. We received 187 responses. Generally, 166 did not have any objections. 21 people did, and everybody gave was given the opportunities to submit comments. We received 37 comments, and I was able to kind of identify some common themes and provide a summary. So most respondents are in support of the development of 1900 Light Street. The biggest concern is parking and infrastructure. They would like the development to include parking for patrons, and one respondent requested bicycle parking. People expressed preferences in regards to the types of vendors or businesses that would inhabit the area. Small, locally owned minority businesses preferred. Coffee shop would serve the community well. Gathering place opportunities for children and young adults was a big common theme. So kids gym, a regular community center, something that could allow people under 21 to gather, so that this could kind of foster community development. Convenience store and grocery store options were mentioned by many, including like Wawa, Aldi's, and Trader Joe's. There was a strong stance against establishing a bar scene in the area due to concerns about drunken foot traffic and littering. One respondent specifically mentioned a moratorium on vape and smoke shops and food bars. And then there were a couple respondents that want assurance that the MOU or the community benefits agreement would pass on to any owner in perpetuity. So I submitted this to Tara for inclusion in the meeting minutes so everybody can see. And I also included some sample comments that I thought were pretty interesting. So anybody have any questions about that?
Peter, go ahead.
How many do you know that actually live in
That was not a requirement in regards to the information that they had to include. I didn't ask for an address, I just asked for an email address. So these could be people that are not necessarily in the area, though there were some people in the comment section that said, I specifically live in this area, I support it, or I do not support it, but generally parking was the main issue. But there's no way to differentiate between, who actually lives in that area and who's outside of SBA.
So in summation, what was the percentage of people who were for it?
Oh yeah, so 88.8% were in favor of it, and 11.2% were against it.
And so, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, how, there was a lot of asking we can't have this kind of shop, or we can't have this in the kid oriented. I think I considered the comment saying how is that at all possible?
So that's a good question. I don't think we're really in a position to tell the developer what could be there, right?
Yeah. So this is sort of where we are with this. The developer is a very, I want to say, progressive, community oriented. Their brand is to be community oriented. And so anytime we've asked them for something, they've been very eager to try to do community friendly. And so what that means is that we said, well, we want a community benefits agreement that would allow us to hold meetings there, would allow an event once a year that would be like a community event that they would host and sponsor for people to come from our neighborhood and from Riverside, which are the boundary neighborhoods. And we would like them to lock themselves into the presentation that they gave us, like legally and contractually lock themselves in. So that, in a way, sort of gets to what we're talking about, because they talked about what the space is going to be used for, and it's I think they're locking themselves into closing at 10 or 11 at night, and they're also locking themselves into saying like it's going to be a brewery, a coffee shop, some office space, and like a fitness exercise kind of, and that will be the tenants. But that's gonna require us to make sure that we're pretty vigilant on the community benefits agreement. But in theory, like they can put whatever they want there, and then we would have to fight it if we didn't like it. But locking them into this community benefits agreement, where we could actually ask them, hey, we want some kind of saying who the tenants are. I don't think that they're that far away from saying that that's okay, because it seems like what they're presenting to us, they're willing to contractually obligate themselves to providing. So the space is not going to be a family-oriented space. That's not what they're. A lot of people are like, we want a family-oriented. It's going to be a brewery, a coffee shop, an exercise studio, and that's not what's being presented. I don't know if we really have any say to tell them like if to put in like a daycare center and whatever they want there. I think what we can do though is lock them into what they're presenting to us before it goes through all the zoning. That what they say they're going to do, that this is actually what we're going to hold them to do. If that makes sense. Like they're not saying, hey, we're going to redevelop this into a Trader Joe's. Yeah. Would I like that? Sure. I'm sure everyone would like that, but that's not what they're doing. So like those comments are nice. Hey, we want this. This would be good for livability in the area to have these things. But it's not. I don't think that we can hold them to that. I don't think we have any leverage to make it become that. And I also don't agree that we should, and neither does 86% of the people who responded, agree that we should fight the project in order to get that, because that's not the idea. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of people would. I think there's legitimate concerns that we already have a cross street market, and we don't need to duplicate that at the other end of the end of Charles Street. I don't think this is what these developers are tending to do, and as long as they are willing to say, hey, this is what we're presenting to you, and this is what we're going to do, and now let's lock this down contractually in perpetuity, like I think the concern was, and then for agreeing to do that, we would support that as long as you provide a community benefits agreement, and then you enter into an MOU with us. So sort of jumping in, like in addition to what you're saying, and going a step further, the legislative session is out there right now, and they wanted the opportunity, they being the developer, and JJ Reddy is the developer. So
Steve Wilhite is the developer.
Right.
JJ Reddy is the architect.
Right.
He'll do the build out.
They wanted the ability to go to the General Assembly and ask for the possibility of doing the marketplaces. And that's, the General Assembly is in session now, and it actually doesn't look like that's going to occur. But in order for us to do our due diligence to the community, we felt like we should advertise this, do the survey, let people know what's going on, make sure everyone knows what's going on, open up a meeting, let people address it if they need to, sort of like you give a due process to the procedures. And we wrote a letter in support of it with a very strong caveat. And the caveat was that we would support state legislation to a market license as long as, one, there wasn't major objections to it during the community meeting or through a survey that we would provide, and we haven't seen that, we found that. And two, it was written into the state law that would allow it, that they must enter into a community benefits agreement with us, and they must enter into an MOU. So that would be in the state law.
If I can just,
Yeah.
so I think some of the people's concerns is the word brewery, but if anybody's familiar with breweries and taverns, they have to close at 10 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So Diamondback closes at 10, Checker Spot closes at 10, Peabody, Pickett, the one that's opening up on Packard Street now, it's outside of SB&A, but it's still very close to our footprint. They all close at 10 anyway. That would be, from a neighborhood standpoint, from a resident standpoint, more desirable than a market-wide license, because now they're changing. I don't want to steal our thunder. a minute. But
Yes, Steelers Brother.
But they're going to change the hours of Cross Street Market too, because they're struggling because of COVID, and one of the issues is the hours. So we'll get to that in a minute, but they're going to extend those hours. So I think for the neighborhood and the people that are adjacent to the project, a brewery is the absolute best thing, because they're going to close at 10. And if you've ever been to Checker Spot or some of these other ones, they're not. It's not like people are in there getting tore up,
Right.
crazy.
So I'm familiar with Peabody, right? And they're a very community-oriented community. Like people bring their kids into there. I think they have a daycare program associated with that. So you could run a brewery like in a community-friendly, family-friendly kind of way.
And not to interrupt you again, but the developer, Steve Wilhide, is very family oriented. He didn't just buy that property. His family's owned that property for many, many years. And he ran his business, which is blinds and window coverings, out of it up until just recently. And we've had several meetings with him, and the board has over the last 5 years. And he's very cognizant of the fact of family, noise, parking, all that stuff. So he's a good partner, I guess.
So I guess where we are right now, and again, I'll open the floor back up for some more commentary, is that Jen has done a great job. Thank you for putting the survey out. I think we got a ton of responses. I was really impressed with the amount of responses. If anyone followed the Facebook thread, it was very lively for a little while, which is good. Which is good, right? It's always good to have a lively Facebook thread. And I think what I'm hearing is not any real substantial objection to where we are right now. And also saying that I don't believe they're even putting in the legislation to get a market license. I don't think that that's occurring. But the General Assembly is still, but I gave my my good faith word to JJ Redding, the developer, that I would present this for him, because he's been very forthright in coming to our community meeting and presenting to us exactly what the plan is. And it seems that he's willing to lock the developer contractually into following what they're doing, which I think is something that is helpful. So, any questions on this issue at all, or any comments, or does anyone want to raise anything?
I have a quick comment, and it's like not totally related to any sort of controversy. I just wanted to say that they post updates every once in a while. They have an Instagram account for this project specifically. It's just Riverside, Baltimore. So if I live on the block, so I'm a little bit more invested than maybe a lot of people, but if you're interested, that's out there, and they're very. And I guess the point of me saying that is they're very like you said, they want to be in the community. They want to be a part of the community. It seems like so.
Jen?
So one of the things that, one of the specific comments was that somebody wanted more information on the MOU.
Sure.
And I know that the board was kind of creating a draft template. Is that something that we could maybe post on our website so that people could view a template, or do you have concerns with that?
No, I think we're all about transparency, and that's fine.
Okay.
These are going to become the public documents once they hit the liquor board, so no problem putting that out.
Okay. And then another thing is, and that brings, you brought up a really good point, is I think a lot of the respondents didn't quite get the purpose of us putting this out, because they thought that it kind of meant that they could weigh in on what tenants would actually be there. So do neighborhood associations, do residents have any say in what goes in a spot? Could they, rally and advocate for something for, a certain company or vendor or business, or?
I mean, they can, but
It's up to the developer.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you flip it around as a developer, you also have to put in what's going to be profitable. I mean, this is a big chunk of property and a lot of costs incurred by the developer. I think there's a fine line between, and this is going on the block right now. I mean, what could be there versus what would go there. But, we really don't have any input. I mean, it's going to be the highest and best use.
But I do think what we're seeing is that there's a high interest in this area for some family-oriented programming, and also parking concerns, which we did. So I think the survey was double beneficial, because we saw what people are interested in who responded to that.
Well, and can I say one more thing?
Sure.
This is kind of direct, because I know you guys have kids. If you go to Cross Street Market on Fridays, there's kids everywhere. And they just run
We
around.
take ours to every brewery.
Yes. I mean, but the market on Fridays is full of kids, and they just run roughshod like they used to do, and they would put the fence up down at Nick's. So until you let them there, let them run like wild people.
Yep.
Any other discussion or comments or commentary on 1900? Yes, Tom.
I don't know where the negotiation stands or the discussion, but I think one thing that I've heard from my neighbors is that it's been echoed already, but the parking is getting really jammed up on our block, and it might be a good idea to include some kind of improvement, like permit parking on that block as part of that project.
I agree.
So that's
Not 30 down there.
No,
For
Or
the
for free.
MOU, like the memorandum, when that goes into that, if it gets to that point, is that something that gets voted on at the meetings? Say like between like our neighborhood association and Riverside Association, to where it's like a joint venture of like people can say like I'd like this in there. They vote on what goes in and out.
No, but what you're raising good points, right? So the MOU is something. And do you want to talk on this at all? Or the MOU.
touch on it.
Yeah, so I'll just introduce it and then I'll let it come. So the MOU is we've created a lot of work went into this, right? And the MOU is an upgrade for pretty much all the liquor license establishments in the area. Because the last time it was upgraded was probably in the 90s sometime. So now I'll let you sort of touch on this.
So the MOU is a document that we as a neighborhood association have the power to contract with liquor establishments in the neighborhood, and it gets attached to their liquor license in front of the board. So we're limited in what we can actually put in the MOU because it has to be enforceable by the liquor board. So we, as a board, and have the template prepared so that we can negotiate based upon that template with liquor establishments. But it's pretty minimal what we can actually do. It really allows, the purpose is, and the vehicle, it provides a vehicle for us to go in front of the board, and if an establishment is doing something that we disagree with, it gives us standing to say, you know, we're in violation of the agreement that we have, but we're really limited in scope of what we can actually put in that document.
Now the community benefits agreement.
That's what I was
different.
That's what I was referring to.
Sure, but I'm glad, right, because there was some general confusion, the difference between an MOU with the liquor license establishment that's attached to the liquor license, and a violation is a violation of, through the liquor board, and sanctionable through the liquor board, and the community benefits agreement, which is just a contract. So yes, when the community benefits agreement rolls around, we most certainly will present it to the general membership and let people have input and let them know what's going on. That will be a very public process that occurs throughout the general membership. Do you have anything else you want to talk about this? Okay. You want to while it's the Jen Eastman show, do you want to talk about Frank Murphy and the Lonely Street?
Oh, sure. So if
Some
you
band name?
remember, we put out a Google poll months ago. I think it was warm weather season at that point, where we were soliciting feedback from community members on addressing the continued vehicle collisions at East Randall and South Hanover. I believe, a concerned citizen had reached out to the Department of Transportation. They came to one of our board meetings when, I don't know if we were virtual or what have you, and proposed some interventions. So there was do nothing, then there was reverse East Randall so that it went in the opposite direction for one block from Hanover to Charles, or do it continuously from Hanover all the way to Lake Street. And then we solicited feedback, and there was obviously very strong responses in regards to everything, as well as some recommendations for what we can do instead of reversing the block. But it was our recommendation to put forward through the Department of Transportation that we would just do the opposite direction from Hanover to Charles, because to Light just diverts too much traffic onto Light. We all know that parking on both sides and those train, those buses that just like plow through would just be too much of an additional problem that we would want to avoid. So it took months of emails trying to get a response, and we looped in Eric Costello, who prompted a response. I did get an email last week, or maybe it was just yesterday, saying that they're willing to come to our meeting. Today was too soon, so next month they're happy to come and talk to us about the logistics, which would kind of involve the timeline, what we can expect during the process, and all the logistics that are associated with that change. So we'll have more information at the March meeting.
Great, thank you. I know that's such a long process, so I appreciate that. It's, the wheels of government are slow in turning, but hopefully it will be addressed before we have another significant car accident.
Can
Any
I?
questions on that?
I have a question. Just questions for Jen.
Sure.
And if nobody has questions on that, are there updates on like 311 complaints or parking enforcement, or anything new to add on any of those? Otherwise, I'm going to delete them.
No.
Okay.
No, I have not received any like common issues that are prevalent among multiple members.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right. Anyone have anything with that? Okay. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Cross Street Market. Delegate Luke Clippinger contacted me and also contacted several other community association leaders in reference to the Cross Street Market. And it seems that the Cross Street Market's hours, they were closed earlier than like some of the Ravens games were ending. It was creating problems. And so what they're going to do is they're going to align the closing times of the market to sort of fit with the way our house is, and I think that's in Remington, which is another market, which would be, and also fit so that they can stay open a little later, which would be 11 p.m. on weekdays and 12 a.m. on weekends. And that would be for the liquor establishments within the market. My personal opinion, and when we met with the board, is that we believe that the success of the market is important to the livability of South Baltimore Neighborhood Association, and we want to support that business and the businesses inside the market to be successful. So it increases the livability and also increases the people who live in the neighborhood who also work there. And so we are in favor, in theory, of them allowing the hours to be extended. Now, there's some concern that when the COVID pandemic is finally over, whenever that occurs, that we may have some issues with the market and some problematic behaviors. And the reason that it was closed initially at an earlier time would then become problematic as more people went there. I think we can address, this is my personal opinion, and I expressed this to the board, and I think it was echoed by the board. That's going to be a great problem to have later down the line when we're doing so well. We have to worry about that. Right now, I think we have to worry about people succeeding and keeping their business.
Because ultimately, everything surrounding all the other bars surrounding the market are open too. So, I mean,
So I told Delegate Clippinger that in theory, I agree with that legislation and I'm not opposing it. However, we presented at a general membership meeting, which is this meeting, and open the floor up to any discussion on that issue. So the floor is now open to anyone who would like to comment on that.
Current hours?
they close at 8 on Sundays and 10 on, and 10 on Friday and Saturday, and 8 on during the week, with the exception of Watershed. So.
Yeah, well, that was the other issue. Watershed stays open anyway.
Yeah.
So like, what's the point? But this will align this market license with the R House license in Remington. I think it's exactly the same as what their hours would be.
And the Atlas Group is taking over a bigger role in the marketing and the public relations for the market, and they're doing things like, they're going to let vendors kind of piggyback on them and their discounts with wholesalers and for food and stuff like that to try to absorb some of the cost. And this is kind of, everybody's seen this if you follow Kevin Lynch. I had a conversation with Jason Albert, who's going to be like he's kind of the boots on the ground at the market. Atlas isn't looking, and the only reason I say this is because I know Atlas has somewhat of a thing,
Reputation.
they're not looking to put an Atlas concept in every vacant stall. They just want the market to succeed because there's more people in the market. There's going to be more people, obviously, flowing into the watershed, and I think vice versa. So they're going to do a pop-up beer vendor thing where Cans was. So if you saw Cans before last Sunday and you were in there this week, it doesn't look like Cans was ever there. So they're going to do a thing, but it's temporary. Will that change? Who knows? I guess it depends on how Cana and Capes Valley and the city determine the direction of the market.
But either way, I don't think anyone would argue that the market is an anchor to the community and it's a fixture that's been here for several hundred years.
Yeah, it's been here a long time.
Yeah, so my inclination is to support, and as long as it's not detrimental to the community, we'll see how that staying open a little later is quite question.
Oh, I was gonna say that, I don't understand why you that's why.
Well, I'll tell you why, because yes, it's going into state legislation, and I want to be able to say, if anyone asks me as the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association president, that we presented this issue and we allowed public commentary on it. People would come to the meeting and express themselves, and we heard no opposition to it. And it seems like that's what I'm hearing, right? So.
I mean, you guys are new to the neighborhood, so you may not have any. So, if you have any questions now,
How do the businesses inside the market feel about this?
they're for
They,
it, and they don't have to stay open. So, Steve's Lunch is generally a breakfast and lunch spot. Nobody's going there for dinner or anything, so they're going to close. Ceremony Coffee, they're not going to stay open until midnight. It's Nick's Southside Burger Bar, Pizza to Joey,
Yeah.
Taco Love, Old Line, whatever's going to end up at Cans, the Pokey Place, and those. I don't think So Beachy will stay open until midnight. But if they don't have to close at 8 or 9, that's good for them too. So
Right, especially on game days.
I don't see why, like you said, I don't see why anybody would oppose it.
Yeah.
Well, we have to put it out there, and if anyone has opposition, it's their right to oppose it and express why, and then we can have a reasonable discussion about that, and then take a position vote. But it looks like I'm not hearing anything. We do something else.
I was just gonna say, I don't really see much of an effective difference between, an indoor area with multiple venues that stays open until midnight when everything on those two streets.
Exactly. It does seem like a no-brainer, but it's not us to decide these things without getting input from the general membership.
As the city said, how long, or if they ever plan to reopen the north side and cross street?
Yeah, so that is something that's being discussed right now. It looks like they're going to keep the north side closed. They're going to create a truck loading zone, and they're applying for grants right now for like camera coverage and bollards that would keep the area shut. So it looks like people are like pushing aside the water-filled bollard, the barricades. It's become problematic, so they're looking at a more permanent solution. Just so you know, that permit was originated not for the bars and restaurants, but for the residents, such as ourselves, during the COVID, that have a place to walk and congregate outside. I'm on the board of Federal Hill Main Street as in the public safety capacity, and we're talking about how we need to activate that space in a way that is family friendly and people use the space. Right. So people use that space. That space is safe, and that there's camera coverage of the space, and we've good Uber and Lyft drop-off points, and just that whole area is being used properly, so it doesn't become an area that's shut and it's not being used and it just becomes problem.
They did do, there were several things with prep, and I think both of them were for prep, where they had like face painting for Halloween and stuff in there. That's about the time that those brownish picnic bench things showed up. So they did use the space, and I think as long as it's closed for good, people will kind of gravitate to it. Yes?
I just wanted to make clear that, the street closure, the hours of operation of the market are controlled by the city, right? The hours that they can sell alcohol are a matter of state law.
Right.
Right, and the state, our delegation is looking to amend the state law.
Right.
So not that these things all come together, but the controlling authority does differ, depending on what we're talking about.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so any questions about Cross Street Market, the street closures, what's happening up in that area, and how we impact that? Great. All right, let's move on to an area that's been of concern, which is the solar trash cans, or the big belly trash cans that we have. It seems like that's always coming up, and there's been many a funny Facebook posts that I've seen of the dog litter bags and pizza boxes stacked on top of it. So this is going to be Mike Murphy and I are going to address this. Mike is on the board of the LDC, which is the casino money as it's being spent by the city, and I'm on the board of the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership, which is the casino money as it's being spent by the community. Right, I think that's the breakdown. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the casino revenue is funding specialized trash pickup on it. And what is it called, Mike? The enhanced services down Charles Street, down Light Street, and down Hanover Street, where they're supposed to come by once a day and empty all the trash cans that are community-based trash cans that are there. And that happened years ago when they decided that the Department of Public Works, and they being the LBC, which is the casino money as the city spends it, decided that it would be a good idea to use the Department of Public Works and the trash trucks as the overtime vendors, because they had the infrastructure to be the ones who pick up the trash on this route. And as we all know, right, they're experiencing some difficulty in DPW right now, and that's a nice way to say it. And they're not able to pick up the recycling, and so they're certainly not able to perform the overtime services properly. And so what was identified by the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership and the LDC was that the solar trash cans, these big belly trash cans that we have, which are supposed to, the trick with them is there's two things. One is that you're not allowed to, you can't just fill them with your trash bag and stuff them up. They're the limited opening. But two is they were supposed to signal when they were full, and then the pickup would pick them up when they were full. Well, that doesn't make sense if you're paying to have them picked up every day, number one. And number two, the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership determined that that the position that DPW had to monitor the signal from the trash can to see if they were full or not has never been filled and is not filled. So the whole purpose of the design of the trash can and the whole purpose that they have that there is makes no sense, because the person who's supposed to read it isn't employed to read it to tell them to go pick it up. And so in saying that, and with the problems that we've had with the trash can in general, it's like one of the big complaints that we get, and it's an eyesore and no one likes it, is before we even knew from the LDC and the South Baltimore Gateway Partnership this information, we were going to vote tonight and put up for discussion whether or not we want to take a position as a neighborhood association to just get rid of these trash cans and put the traditional trash cans back, where you just put stuff in. Specifically, since it's been, it's supposed to be picked up once a day. So I know I just said a lot, right, about trash cans, right? But this is the nature of a community association meeting.
So to give you an example for me, I come out of my door every day, and the big belly one across the street from me, I live on Charles and Austin, is jammed, and there's dog bags. It's a mess. And then on the other side of the street is the traditional garbage can, and I watch them empty that can. They drive right by that one because that's not their job to do it, I guess. And so this one's constantly a mess, and this one's constantly getting picked up. So, and the problem is they get jammed, and they're not reading as full, but you can't get anything else in there because somebody's put something in there that's too big.
But what we learned is even if the red is full, the person who would read
It's not
that
there.
doesn't exist,
So-
so it doesn't matter. Right? Question, yes.
Is it possible to take a look at the cost of a new vendor with a set schedule to pick up trash from all trash cans
Right.
and weigh that versus the cost of removing the solar trash cans and putting in, the older trash cans, I guess, and then getting one of the vendors to also figure out if they're gonna pick up the trash cans anyway.
Yes, everything they're saying, yes. That's being done right now, right, through the Southgate Gateway Partnership and the LDC are looking at what are we paying to have picked up, understanding the limitations of the Department of Public Works right now and their ability to act as vendors, and looking at privatization of that and seeing what it would cost to remove those things. So all that is being done, and as that becomes apparent, right, we'll report back out to the community association on what the results are. But yes, because that makes perfect sense what you just said, right? And that's the avenue we're going down. I think though, it's more than that at this point. I think that just the fact that these cans, the design of these cans, right, is not efficient for what they're being used for, and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That the board endorsed a motion, which we're gonna make but I wanna put out everything, that we should take a position that we should remove those cans, right? And we should put traditional cans up. And that should be the position of the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association. Yeah, regardless of what the further, to influence the further discussion. And so we can say the neighborhood association doesn't like these cans, they cause problems, and it doesn't make sense to utilize them anymore. But let's continue to this. Did I answer your question, Mark?
You did. What was it, past board that had approved the solar trash cans in the first place, or was it a city initiative?
Hey, Mike, do you know the history of the solar trash cans?
Yes, how much would you like to know?
So the question was, right,
We didn't.
wasn't a past board that approved the solar trash cans being installed?
So they were thrust upon us.
No, so
Mike is the past president, is why.
Okay.
he has the answer.
DPW wanted these. They did a pilot program. And they were, the original trash cans were leased because of the software that operates them. And somehow, they found somebody that would build them and they could own them. And there was just great, because they, phone home, do whatever. So maybe they work right down the harbor, a few places they piloted them. But as they got out in these neighborhoods, they're not so awesome. So,
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, makes sense. So it sounds like DPW.
Wasn't us.
had a decision.
But this is why we have neighborhood associations, to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
positions and advocate for the residents.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And I think just like even the fact that they're just being overused and misused is reason enough to get rid of them. But also I've seen a lot of them that are just broken, like the sides are knocked off of them and stuff like that. They're probably 100 times more expensive to repair than just a regular old trash can anyways. I'd say if you remove that, you put a trash can on all four corners of the intersection, now you've just quadrupled your capacity, and the guy emptying the truck.
Not in front of my
It's
house.
much easier.
Well, so
I know that's an intersection that's always packed.
So let me do this real quick. So there's going to be an issue if we put traditional trash cans out, because people are going to take their garbage from their house and they're going to throw it in there, and it's going to filled to the top.
So
that one of the things with the solar trash cans is they have a slot.
Yeah.
So like you can't do that, right?
But is there a way to do that like with a conventional can? They just have all you do is get some like sheet metal cut where it only fits a certain size.
No, yeah.
So the issue and what Sam's saying is true, but for me and having one across the street from my house all the time, I can maintain that can. Like if somebody brings their bag of trash from their house, puts it in, and the can's empty so nobody else can get it, I can pull that out. These cans, these big belly cans, because it's internal, and it always just ends up bags of dog crap.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like doing that. Like I'll do whatever, and I'm a dog owner, so the other cans and they get picked up more frequently.
Yeah.
So even if it's that issue, like the one on Charles and Austin today, we walked dog, somebody dropped their, the thing this big. I picked it up and the garbage can's empty.
Yeah.
Threw my bag in and put it back. But I can, as a neighbor, I can maintain that. Like if it's jammed up, I can fix it. These big belly ones, I can't fix them because there's somebody jammed a box in it.
And pizza.
Yeah, and pizza box.
And that's one of the things because like just as an experiment, because we have one at the corner of the bar intersection, and so like we just had like a black trash can. I put a contractor bag in it and set it outside, and we never put trash in it. People would come by and put trash in it, and then our block, we started seeing significantly less trash because big belly can wasn't just jam packed full anymore because we were throwing them in this empty can that I just put out there.
Right. That's smart. Mike, did you have something you want to say?
Yes. As part of the enhanced service for trash, Light, Charles, and Hanover are picked up once a day. Light and Charles are picked up twice a day by DPW. That ran, not getting rid of recycling, is off these two. So how often they're executing on that?
Well, let's say this: they're being funded
They're being
by the casino to pick up twice a day.
receiving funds from the casino impact fund to provide additional services to those three streets once a day. To light Charles twice a day. Now the big bellies don't count because they phone home. Right? They tell you when they need service, but nobody picks up. You don't just drive by and take care of it. Right? So, again, they may make sense in certain locations, but they really make very little sense at the corner of Austin and Charles, where as part of that enhanced services that the LDC is funding, there's a trash truck that's supposed to drive by twice a day, and I drive by Greg's house, take my kid to school 5 days a week, and the big belly trash can has shit hanging out all in front, right? Because it didn't phone home yet. And if it even did, they didn't staff the position, that would answer the phone. Dispatch someone.
Yeah, the mailbox is full.
Yeah.
Did you have something you
Well,
wanted
I
to
was
add?
just saying, like, I don't think the problem is the trash cans, it's the people who are using them.
Sure.
You're not gonna change that,
Right.
so you might as well just replace it with the things that are working.
So let's do this. I know we're not operating traditionally on Robert's Rules of Order, but the board had a motion, and the motion would be that the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association would vote to take a position to remove the solar / big belly trash cans and replace them with the traditional trash can. So I'm going to put forth that motion. I think since it's a board motion, it doesn't need a second. And we've had some discussion, but I'll open up is everyone clear on what the motion is? That the position of this neighborhood association would be to get rid of all those trash cans and put traditional trash cans in. Does anyone have any discussion on that before I call that motion to a vote? Yes.
I just have one question, which is, are there any like compacting properties that the big, okay, so they're just completely.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought they
Yeah,
I thought
that's
they were
what, when you
compactors.
see a solar
Yeah, right.
trash
Yeah, I
can,
was like,
that's
wow,
like
this is
what they
cool.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, not me.
I have a question, Sam.
Sure.
These trash cans they're gonna put out, are they stabilized or can they be?
I think, Kyle, they'll be like the ones across from us. It'll be the grate. I think they're going to do the same thing with the plastic insert.
Right.
No,
I mean,
Yeah, and the grade's bolted to the ground. Yeah.
They can't be,
no, they can't be moved.
that's all, I don't wanna do.
No, they're hammer drilled and bolted in.
That's all.
No, that's a good question. Does anyone have any comment? I know we've talked about this a lot. It's a lot for a trash can discussion. But this is the fun of the neighborhood association. So does anyone have any commentary on that? All right, then I'm going to call it for a vote. All in favor of the motion, which would be to remove those solar trash cans and replace them with the traditional trash cans. And I guess we have to say throughout South Baltimore Neighborhood Association. Or do we want to say through the service routes that we'll talk about? Charles, like Hanover, right? Those are the streets? Get rid of all of them? Get rid of all of them, okay. So that's the motion. And replace them with traditional trash cans. All in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, hearing none, the motion passes, and it is the position of the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association that we get rid of those big belly. We ask for the. Hooray.
We did something.
Wonderful. Good government. Progress. All right, so those were the big agenda items that we had to discuss today. I don't think there's anything else. So we'll move on to old business. Does anyone have anything that we were discussing that we need to bring up again?
Megan.
No, I think it was really like the trash cans, and that was what was in old business.
Are we doing the happy hour on the
We are
16th?
doing the happy hour.
It's the 16th, right?
Yeah.
Next Wednesday.
All right.
It's whatever next Wednesday is.
So, Greg, you want to just present that so everyone's aware?
Yeah. Next Wednesday, 16th, you do a happy hour at Cross Street Market. You come in, you get a stamp. All the vendors that are open in the evenings, Old Line, Burger Bar, Pizza to Joey, everybody's open. You get Blowfish. Everybody, you get a stamp. You go, you get a discount, and they have drink specials at Old Line.
Great.
It's from 5:30 to 7:30.
We get to socialize with all the wonderful people that live in the neighborhood. So.
5:30 to 7:30.
Great. Any other old business?
Not old business, but I want to approve the minutes whenever we can.
Sure, go ahead.
We have not approved minutes in many months, so I would like to vote today to approve the October, November, and January general membership meetings. Since Tara's, they have been posted to our website, and I posted it on the event page, so I don't know how to call a vote, but if somebody wants to.
So any objection to
Any
approval of the minutes?
I don't have an objection, but I did want to know where they're posted.
They are posted on the it's mysobo.org is our website, and there's a link on there for minutes.
So if you review them and there are any questions, feel free to bring them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So hearing no objections to that, we're going to approve
Great.
those minutes.
Thanks.
Okay. So new business. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring up in the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association meeting? Michael.
So I spoke to the parking authority about the possibility of moving our renewal period to
Okay.
a different month. I find moving my sticker and putting a new one in January very helpful. And it's difficult to coordinate any other events with a January event. So they gave us the option of moving it to April or May. That means that the current permits would expire either on April 30th or May 31st, depending on what we choose. So this is for this month, this is good for that, and April meeting. So there's one more time to hold the
So the purpose of this, I think, is I think it's a good idea. That one, it gives us an extra couple months that our permit is good, which is always a good thing. And number two is we would be able to distribute the permit and bring people into the neighborhood association. So we would have like a touch of the people who live in the neighborhood who want their permit, and that touch would allow us to say, hey, we're South Baltimore Neighborhood Association. Why don't you join? Why don't you get more involved or just monitor what we're doing? And so I think that's beneficial in a lot of ways. So does anyone have any commentary on what Mike's trying to do?
I do have a question though. Have they given us a timeline when they're going to switch us to digital anyway, and it becomes a moot issue?
So they are Area 48, which is the new area in Riverside, is virtual sticker. That's a new term they're using, I can't recall. And virtual visitor. And they're piloting virtual visitors in the Wrigley Light area. So currently, from an enforcement perspective, the parking authority manages the program and issues the permits, right? The Department of Transportation deals with enforcement.
Parking enforcement for
Parking
DNC.
enforcement. So that's a different city. So the parking authority is a quasi-government entity, right? The parking authority deals with the enforcement, right, which is part of the actual city agency.
No. The parking enforcement issues the permits and manages the parking permits, right?
Yeah.
The Department of Transportation is the enforcement.
Yes. So the Department of Transportation. So right now, parking enforcement, the equipment that they're using to issue citations has a license plate reader in that. So when they're in an area with either virtual visitors, a virtual permit, virtual visitors, they'll scan license plates.
So so everyone understands what the technology is. There's a van, right? And it's the van that boots people, and it's got.
It's a van. It's not part of the process.
Okay.
Okay. The van. That's an aspirational move they're working on.
Okay, got you.
Right now, it's a handheld device.
Oh, got you.
I don't know.
So what are they scanning?
They're scanning your license plate. It comes up good or bad. Right. So enforcement in the areas where it's virtual currently with the handheld device is at best the same, likely slower than visually walking down the street and looking for a valid either paper, visit press, or a sticker or a permit. Right? Parking authorities have law equipment to do the drive-by van scan, right, with the data collection. And they're not the enforcement side. The Department of Transportation is in the process of getting cars equipped and software set up so that they can do drive-throughs and do that. So it is on its way. The features there, I think there was an RFP for this that was going to go out last month. And to finish building out the system and moving forward with it.
So, Mike, based on your extensive knowledge of permanent parking, what's the time frame?
I think that we will, if things go well, right, our next iteration of stickers would be our last.
So April or May of next year for us.
That'd be our last iteration of stickers. The more likely scenario is go with stickers for 2 more cycles, possibly 3. And the first thing that we transition over will be the virtual visitor permits. Right? Which I think in all will be good for people who are using them properly and have valid permits. Right? Because I think that the visitor permits are subject to abuse. So I know that in originally Blank, the representative that the parking advisory board saying that they frequently see people park with a visitor's permit, right to the hospital, walk to the hospital, walk back over the car, and drive away at the end of the day, right? Because someone they know that lives there has given them the visitor's permit, and that person's parking there every single day.
Or sold them the permit.
And well, that is technically a violation of the use of the visitor's permit. You can only same person you only use it so often for whatever the term you want. So that might be the way I see it going. I do continually reiterate for more than a year now that the ability to do enforcement needs to be equivalent or better than what is in place now. with this.
Anytime it's like they're committed to like the optical scanner, like getting out scanning players, like RFID tags, like.
I don't
Because I mean,
no,
with
it's
the
OCR.
Sport Pass
They're
has the
drawing around.
RFID tag.
It's OCR, right? So there are other cities that have done this already and have had good success. And there's lots of other areas in the city where I believe this easily works well. But the density of the older sections such as the peninsula, and how closely you park together when you're parallel park, I don't know if that's gonna play out. It may work a little bit like the green events we have where we used to have the street full of nice marble steps, and now I have the street full of blue. And I hope not that can work. So, well, I think it's the right direction. It's about the execution. And they're piloting it, they're working through it, figuring it out. The mail-in process that we used this time, because Omicron being so high, none of us who were volunteering wanted to, stand in the room and hand out permits for 14 or 16 hours. Because the state started to work with that stuff on ahead of time too, so moving in the right direction.
Cool. Any questions on that? No? Okay, thanks, Mike. Just keep us informed. Okay, any other new business? Great. So, anything for the good of the order, as they said? No? I want to thank Shelby, who unfortunately was on her way in here and realized the meeting was canceled last meeting. And so so I want everyone to remember that as they tip our wonderful hostess tonight, right? And I ask, yes. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Adjourn. Motion meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. For the residents, welcome to the neighborhood. Thank you. Absolutely.
And we're super busy.
And
If
the
there's
meeting is
anything
adjourned.
about liquor license or parking, so.